Week 5 of the college football season is here, and so are Brad Crawford and Chris Hummer to help us pick the best games this weekend against the spread. Guys, let's start with Michigan and Iowa. The Wolverines, a 9.5-point favorite on the road. Now, at this point, we know all the jokes about Iowa. They've scored just one offensive touchdown all season. I think they'll need a few more to beat Michigan. But, Brad, what are you taking here?
Yeah, Iowa has not scored a touchdown in its last 10 quarters against Michigan, lost by 39 the last time these two teams played. So my question is, why is this spread only 10.5 points here? Odds makers are giving the Hawkeyes too much respect at Kinnick Stadium. Maybe rightfully so, considering Michigan hasn't won there in more than 10 years. But that changes Saturday. Michigan wins this game by at least 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, honestly, I think there's quite a few historical reasons to pick Iowa. Iowa's 5-1 at home since the last decade against top 8 opponents in Kinnick Stadium. Iowa's won 4 straight against Michigan in Iowa City. But I just can't justify picking Iowa in this game. They rank 128th nationally in yards per play. They can't move the football. Michigan's going to score as good as an Iowa defense can be. I like Michigan to win by multiple touchdowns.
All right, staying in the Big Ten, Purdue traveling to Minnesota, and the line seeing some early movement toward Minnesota. The Gophers now favored by 12. Trouble for Purdue in this one. They've already lost 8 of the last 9 in this series, and now could be without 3 starters on offense. Chris, the Boilermakers have covered just once this season. Can they do it again?
Really difficult game to predict right now with the status of Aiden O'Connell up in the air. But I still like Purdue to cover here. I know this game is pushing in the opposite direction in terms of the line, but Purdue's only lost 3 games by double digits the last 3 seasons combined. Like, Purdue doesn't tend to lose big when it loses. And I think Purdue is good enough on the ground defensively to stop Mohamed Ibrahim, or at least slow him down, and Minnesota's dangerous rushing attack. This game could get out of hand, but I think Purdue does enough to hang in here and cover that spread.
Yeah, I'm on the other side here. Minnesota might be the biggest surprise in college football this season. Top 25 team now. Golden Gophers are going to handle their business. Number 1 national right now, ranked in total defense. Really impressive from PJ Fleck's crew. Look, Purdue was lucky to beat FAU last weekend. Doesn't bode well for a Boilermakers team that's going to see this Saturday. So Minnesota wins its 5th straight game, this one by double digits.
Really fun matchup in the SEC. Kentucky at Ole Miss, both undefeated. The Rebs favored by 5.5. And the big story here, guys, is Cats running back Chris Rodriguez returning from a 4-game suspension. Brad, is that enough for Kentucky to cover?
I think it is. Kentucky has an appetite for destruction. That's the vibe I get from watching this Wildcats team play this season. This is Mark Stoops' mentality throughout his tenure in Lexington at the line of scrimmage. Ole Miss has run through a soft schedule these first 4 weeks. Now the Rebels meet an opponent who tries to bludgeon every team it plays. So give me Kentucky here with the points, and give me the Wildcats to win outright on the road.
I'm not going as far as Brad to pick the upset, but I do like Kentucky to cover here. I think Kentucky has the run game to expose some potential cracks for Ole Miss. Ole Miss struggled to defend the run last week in its close win over Tulsa. And I think Kentucky is equipped with Chris Rodriguez back to expose that a little bit. Will Levis is also best in situations where they can establish the run, and he can work out a play action, kind of stops his propensity for turning the ball over a little bit. I still like Ole Miss to score enough points here to win, but I do like Kentucky to cover.
Early game. God bless all the people tailgating at the Grove. All right, Oklahoma trying to bounce back from a loss to Kansas State. On the road at TCU, the Horned Frogs an underdog for the first time this season, but the Sooners a 4.5-point road favorite. Now TCU has covered the spread in each of its 3 games with a set spread. But Chris, will Brent Venables even give them a chance?
I take the over in this game. That's the first thing I say. These two teams are going to score a lot. Both of these defenses have shown significant issues this year. Oklahoma, we saw last week, had its issues with Kansas State. And TCU got lit up by SMU when it was trying to hold on to a lead. I think the difference here is TCU's been really bad on 3rd down this year. They've been in a lot of 3rd and long situations, and Max Duggan has struggled to push the ball downfield. I think his numbers are a bit deceptive. His average depth of target has been one of the worst among starting FBS quarterbacks. Oklahoma is going to be very difficult to stop. I think this is a shootout, and I think Dylan Gabriel and the Sooners offense lead them to a victory.
Yeah, I'm with you, Chris, on the shootout. We're going to find out all we need to know about both of these teams late Saturday afternoon. Is this 3-0 record smoke and mirrors for the Horned Frogs, or is TCU a serious contender in the Big 12? Oklahoma can't afford to step into an 0-2 hole to start conference play. Fans will not be happy. Here we are in Brent Venables' first season. I like the Sooners by a touchdown on the road, evening that conference record at 1-1.
All right, Oklahoma State at Baylor. These are two of the top 3 best scoring offenses in the nation on sustained drives. So it sounds like this one's going to be a coin flip, and the line reflecting that. The home team Bears favored by 2.5. Brad, who you taking?
Will the Big 12's best team please stand up? Through 4 weeks of football, we still know very little about the top of this league. At this point, Kansas could win the Big 12. I think this is an opportunity for Oklahoma State, coming off its open week, to really make a statement and show that there's an elite team at the top of those standings. I'll take the Cowboys outright as a road underdog.
I'm going the other way, Brad. I really like Baylor to cover here. Here's a quick Spencer Sanders stat for Oklahoma State. Last year, since 2021 actually, he's thrown 29 touchdowns against 6 interceptions against everybody but Baylor. Against Baylor, he's thrown 1 touchdown and 7 interceptions. Baylor's been Spencer Sanders' bugaboo the last 2 years. And until I see that change, I have to go with the Bears here. I like Baylor to cover at home. And I think Blake Shapen and the Baylor offense can expose what's been a shaky Oklahoma State secondary quietly this year. That's been covered up a little bit by the competition. But that unit's had its struggles, and I really like Baylor here.
Alabama favored on the road by 15.5. The smallest spread the Crimson Tide has faced all season. Probably has something to do with the opponent, Arkansas. Now, remember last year, the Razorbacks almost pulled off an upset in Tuscaloosa, but ended up falling 42-35. Chris, how you feeling about this line?
I think I'm going to go down with the Arkansas ship. I'm not willing to pick the upset, but I do like Arkansas to cover. That feels like a ton of points. There are some potential problems for Arkansas in this game. They have one of the worst pass defenses in the country, and Bryce Young's on the other side of the field. But I think KJ Jefferson's enough of a playmaker, and I think Arkansas scores enough to keep this close, especially at home in that environment. This is one of the best Arkansas teams we've seen in over a decade, and it would be a wasted opportunity for this game not to at least be close. This is a 4-quarter game that Alabama manages to pull out, but I think Arkansas covers that spread pretty easily.
I'll be the first to admit Alabama has already burned me once this season laying a big number, but I don't think this injury-riddled secondary for Arkansas is going to be able to stop Bryce Young in this passing game. Bama's run defense also near the top of college football. This used to have potential upset written all over it when I saw this game on the schedule this summer. I don't feel that way anymore. I think Alabama needs to make a statement against a good team on the schedule. This is a prime opportunity. Lay the points. Take Alabama in this game in Fayetteville.
One of the best ACC matchups of the weekend, Wake Forest at Florida State. FSU is 4-0, its best start in 7 years. Wake Forest could have come into this one undefeated, having every opportunity to beat Clemson last week, but fell in a shootout in overtime. The Noles favored by 6 at home. And Brad, it feels like Vegas putting a little bit of trust in them here.
Yeah, finally, AP voters this week have ranked the Seminoles. That should have happened a couple weeks ago after they beat Louisville on the road with a backup quarterback, but it didn't. You have to wonder, if you're a Wake Forest backer in this one, will the Demon Deacons be able to bounce back from that emotional loss to Clemson in time for this trip to Tallahassee? Florida State ranks number 1 in the ACC against the pass, and that's all I need to know against this pass-happy offense. FSU wins this game, stays unbeaten, and covers the 6 points.
Brad, we're going opposite ways a lot this week, man. I actually like Wake Forest in the upset here. Florida State is really banged up right now. There's not a ton of people talking about it, but that undefeated start has resulted in a lot of injuries. Jordan Travis is hobbling right now. They're missing some of their best defensive pieces. And Wake Forest, I think, is being very undervalued. Wake Forest struggles to run the ball at times, but Sam Hartman, in my opinion, is the best quarterback in the ACC. He didn't show anything to prevent me from saying that last week against Clemson. And I think Wake Forest on the road is going to make a statement this week, bouncing back from that Clemson loss. I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means, but I do have Wake Forest winning by 3 on the road.
All right, we're looking at Texas A&M at Mississippi State. And guys, before we make this pick, I have to ask you, have you ever been to Starkville and experienced the cowbells?
I have not.
I have, yeah. It's quite loud, and it's quite loud. It sticks with you.
It is an atrocious noise. Much respect to the Bulldog fans, but one game is enough for me. That being said, Texas A&M's offense already struggling. Now they're going into that hostile environment. The Bulldogs favored by 3.5 at home. So Chris, where's your money going?
I like Mississippi State here to win and cover. I think Mississippi State's just simply a better team. Texas A&M does defend the pass really well. It's one of the few strengths the Aggies have had this year consistently. But Texas A&M just can't move the ball offensively. I've seen nothing to change that, and Anaya Smith being out for the season isn't going to help A&M in that regard. And I think Mississippi State's defense is really underrated. They do a lot defensively. They throw a lot of different looks at you. And Mississippi State had an opportunity earlier this year on the road against LSU to make a statement. It didn't happen. I think this is the week where Mississippi State makes a statement with the team that should be making a run at one of the better seasons in recent Mississippi State history. I love Mississippi State to cover here.
So Chris has made this very attractive to take A&M, but I'm going to side with Hummer on this one. Huge game in the SEC West. I think it's the most underrated game of the weekend in the SEC. I'm still not convinced that Texas A&M's offense can move the ball with enough consistency needed to win this game in Starkville. This line could move a little bit more before kickoff. It was 2.5. Now it's 3.5. I like Mississippi State to cover. Just be aware of this line. If it moves any more, the Aggies are going to be attractive with the points.
Aggies have an average score of 18-16 in their 3 FBS games so far, so take that for what it's worth. Another SEC West tilt on the Plains with Auburn and LSU. Last week was supposed to be the end of Brian Harsin's career on the Plains, but Auburn escapes with a wild win against Missouri. Now his reward, facing Brian Kelly and an LSU team on a 3-game win streak. The Bayou Bengals favored by 9 on the road. Brad, are we going to see some more voodoo at Jordan-Hare this weekend?
Potentially so. Everyone shoveled too much dirt on LSU after that season opening loss to Florida State. The Tigers have cruised since, should dominate Auburn in the trenches this weekend. The key word there is should. I think Auburn gets up for this game, even with a coach who many consider a dead man walking, myself included. But I'll take 9 points here and lean Auburn. LSU wins outright, but 9 points is too many to give up to the home team.
I want to pick Auburn to cover, Brad. I want to be like you in this instance. It's difficult to pick against Auburn at home the way we are here. But I think LSU is going to cover. LSU's better in the trenches on both sides of the ball. LSU can move the ball in different ways. Auburn simply cannot right now. Even if TJ Finley comes back, TJ Finley's shown a propensity in his career to turn the ball over. And we've seen that pop up against his former team once or twice in his career already at Auburn. So I like LSU here. They're the better team. Brian Harsin's tenure is in a difficult place right now. He's beset by injuries. His quarterback room is a mess. But I think this is going to be a really rough game for the Auburn Tigers.
Big implications in the ACC Atlantic. Clemson a 6.5-point favorite at home against NC State. Now this game was pure pandemonium last year when the Pack beat the Tigers 27-21 in overtime. But winning in Death Valley, that's a whole nother story. Chris, what happens here?
I'm curious what the weather looks like. This could be a really soggy environment with a hurricane potentially rolling through the Carolinas, but I like Clemson here in that environment to cover and to win. I think Clemson is better on the ground in the run game. They have the defensive front to slow NC State down, especially if the weather doesn't allow Devin Leary to attack through the air. Clemson's an elite rushing defense, and plus Clemson's won 8 straight in this series for a reason. They've consistently been the better team. I like Clemson to win and cover here.
This one for me comes down to DJ Uiagalelei and if he's going to play with the confidence he has shown these last 3 starts. I didn't think I'd say this going into October, but I like NC State's defense more than Clemson's right now, actually. And I think the Wolfpack keep this one close no matter the weather. Give me the 6.5 points here with the road team, and I think NC State makes a statement, potentially, and wins outright.
As long as it's safe to play, those weather games have potential to turn into classics. All right, there's your picks for the 10 best games this weekend. Brad and Chris, thank you. And as always, subscribe to the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel for the best college football content all season long.